Hey everybody, welcome back to Low Life Plays, coming at you with another deck tech I've thrown together here. One of the more fun aggro ones that just really is aggressive. So aggressive. So this is Raggadragga, Goreguts boss. I thought he was definitely more popular than I guess I ran into when I bring him to game stores. A lot of people don't think I'm talking nonsense when I say Raggadragga or Raggadragga, whatever you want to say. But essentially, this deck is all about playing mana dorks and making them huge and scary, and then just having access to giant spells. So this one should be pretty quick. Before I get too far into it, I always like to remind everybody, if you like this video, like, comment down below, subscribe if you like me that much. But let's go into it. So let's start with Raggadragga, what he does. Essentially, he's a 4 mana, 4/4, so that's nice. And then each creature with a mana ability gets +2/+2. And whenever a creature you control with a mana ability attacks, untap it. Whenever you cast a spell, if at least 7 mana was spent to cast it, untap target creature, it gets +7/+7, gains trample. So, just really, 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 really powerful stuff when it comes to just so aggressive, so much mana. It's a really fun deck to just bust out. Let's start with some enchantments. I'm running Rhythm of the Wild for the creature spells not being able to counter. It's just added benefit, but really it's here to give things haste or counters, right? And then I'm also running Fires of Yavimaya, just because it's pretty fun to give them haste, so we can tap them for mana pretty quickly. Beastmaster's Ascension, pretty good in this one. You know, 3 mana, you can make them huge, get them 5/5. It's nuts. Unnatural Growth, same thing. You know, just getting out these combat style enchantments are just super useful. I'm also running Blood Moon. You know, I think with the reprint of Blood Moon in that recent set, this really helps out just to kind of slow other people down, you know, and it doesn't impact us at all. Leyline of Abundance, so good. Just so powerful with this. I mean, just adding an extra mana on all of your little dudes and giving you a sink for all that mana is so nice. Alright, here's some tech cards. We're running Vitalize. There's a lot of really interesting, like, one-ofs you can run. So this one's super fun if you want to cast a super big spell, you know, like Game Ender, right? You can swing, all your creatures untap, you can float all that mana, use Vitalize, untap them, tap them again, and just have access to so much mana to do one of our big X spells that we'll see here later. We're also running Anzrag, the Quake Mold. So whenever he becomes blocked, you untap each creature you control, which can be incredibly good too, because they're already attacking. They untap, you float all the mana, you can get even more mana. It's just super nice. I mean, just for the fact that after this combat phase, there's an additional combat phase as well. Really, really good stuff. And then you can force him to be blocked, so it's another sink for all that mana during combat. So that's what I was trying to look for, was during the combat phase, what's an instant spell or something that can either mass pump or just have some outlet for it. Greater Good. Just having these abilities to draw cards in green, we just really need that because we are going to fly through our hand because it's all dorks. You know, we're just going to drop them real quick, so we need to be able to draw them back really fast. And the ability to have this in play so that maybe when we cast a giant spell with Raggadragga, give +7/+7. If it's a dork, it has minimum +7/+7/+2/+2, so it has minimum +9/+9 if you were able to synchronize those two effects with his buff and his 7/7 buff. So you could just draw a ton of cards. Guardian Project, like I said, we're flying through our hand, so having Guardian Project is excellent here. This is a flex slot. I'm trying Season of the Gathering just because of its last ability here to draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. Just to be able to draw more cards, I thought that was nice, and then having the flexibility to say, oh, I could draw cards and then put a counter on creatures and they gain Vigilance and Trample. So could help me out, and then it also can wipe artifacts or enchantments off the board, because, you know, we'll have some enchantments, not too many, so you might not even have any out, but we don't run any artifacts, so you can just blow up everybody, and just has a lot of flexibility. Return of the Wild Speaker, it's either a buff or it's drawing cards, so really excellent for what we want to do. Same thing here, Shamanic Revelation, gain a little bit of life, and then draw some cards. Rapid Vigor, I just want to try this out. You know, I've had this card for a bit, and it doesn't really go anywhere just because Regenerate isn't as good as it used to be. So, you know, if you have an extra Heroic Intervention, you could always swap that out for this, but this was more of just stuff I had around my heroic interventions or in other decks, and I just want this to have a home, and it works pretty good here anyway, so I'm just throwing it in. Now we're getting into the big spells that I chose to run. So I'm running Vitalizing Wind, instant speed, costs 9, so it'll trigger Raggadragga, and then it'll also give all creatures you control +7/+7 until end of turn. Really, really fun. Really good stuff. Strength of Tajuru. This is really good in the way that it's an X and multi-kicker. So, I mean, I've done this for insane amounts. You know, I've tapped for upwards of like 20-some mana, so you can buff everybody, multi-kick, give them a ton of counters. So, really good card at instant speed. Fanning the Flames, this one's really good for the second main. So, you know, you swing with all your mana dorks, they untap, you did a bunch of damage, now you're in your second main, all your dorks are untapped, so you can Fanning the Flames, tap them all, tap whatever you need, buy this spell back, and either deal with a problem creature, or burn a player, and then just bounce this back, and then it represents a really reoccurring threat that now your mana dorks really need to be dealt with, and you have a lot of control over the board now with this ability. Skittering Invasion, probably one of the most powerful spells that we run, I think, just because they are creatures with a mana ability. So it's essentially pay 7, get 5 3/4s, or not 3/4s, 2 3s. So I mean that's pretty good in my opinion. And then it also just ramps, so that's nice too. Commune with Lava, just some more card draw, but at instant speed, so you can just do it during combat and just get a lot of value and maybe draw into something that you really needed, like a board, like a buff or something. Just really good card here. One of our game enders here is Comet Storm. So you combine this with like a Vitalize, and you can just, you know, you have access to so much mana because we have so many mana dorks that we're just running out there, floating tons of mana, playing lands, you know, we're not missing land drops, we're doing some good stuff. So being able to Comet Storm, I mean, oftentimes people are low enough after your combat damage where you can Comet Storm at least. Sometimes you can win, sometimes you can take the problem players out, or you can, most times, you can at least take one person out, the most threat at the table for you. Plus, it's so fun. No one ever expects a Comet Storm, dude. It's awesome. Instant speed, too. Crackle with Power. Everyone knows Crackle with Power. If you played any big X spell decks, that's what it's in here for, is just to... This is your game-ending spell, right? If you draw this and you have some dorks, you can wipe the field. Meltdown, like I said, we're not running any artifacts, so we have no reason not to blow up all other artifacts. So we're running Meltdown. Azorius Predation, just an expensive spell for 8, but if you want to, I mean, this is a nice creature wipe that gives us more creatures, so then we can start swinging, attacking, bringing people down. I like this one for our board wipe. Chord of Calling, incredible card in this deck. Just because it's instant speed, it allows you to go fetch up. We're running Endray's Forerunners as our target for Chord of Calling, but you could easily run, like if you wanted to run a more powerful version, you could definitely run Craterhoof here and do the same thing. It would just probably end games with Craterhoof instead of just dealing a ton of damage at once. So yeah, that's what Chord of Calling is really in here for, is to instant speed, go fetch us our Endraiser, because, you know, we'll be able to tap for whatever we need, give them +2/+2 Vigilance Trample, and just deal a ton of damage. Running Force of Vigor, this is a flex slot. You know, I just had an extra Force of Vigor that wasn't in anything, so I figured I wanted to throw it in here, just have access to some more artifact and enchantment removal, and it's easy to cast. So that's why it's in here. It's instant speed. Just be able to do it. You could just swap this out for like a Nature's Claim or some other type of removal. So now we're getting into our dorks. So I have them in just order of casting. So we've got Draga Tree Speaker, excellent one that, you know, you just pay a little bit, it becomes taps for 2, which is really nice. And then if you do get it to 5, we do have a lot of elves. You know, we are running with Mana Dork, so naturally there are just a lot of elves. So having that ability at the bottom to just give elves, add 2, because most of them add 1. So that could be nice. So that's Jiraga. Running Boreal Druid, see, adds 1. Could be 2 with Draga Tree Speaker. But a lot of these guys are just easy to get down, get out there, and just start cranking out mana. So we're running Elvish Mystic, running Birds of Paradise, Finhorn Elves, Llanowar Elves, and then we're getting into our 2 costs. So Fanatic of Ronus is incredible in this deck, just because, I mean, it's an incredible dork in general, you know, like I love this card, but Raggadragga is power 4, so that immediately turns on the tap for 4, Active only if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. Awesome. So good. And then Eternalize just lets it stick around for longer. Paradise Druid, great. Just, flexible mana. We're mainly green, but we do have red, so it's nice to be able to have that flexibility. Bloom Tender can tap for 2 if we have our Raggadragga out. Leafkin Druid, if we control 4 more creatures, it just gets better and better. So a lot of our dorks are really focused on that. Or if they're not focused on that, there's so many choices. This was probably the hardest part of the deck, was trying to find which dorks. Because, I have a stack over here that has just some extra stuff, and one of the dorks I didn't choose was Werebear. Still a really good choice. I don't know. So these will probably swap in and out as I play the deck, but either way. Armored Scrap Gorger, I like this one. It can have a little bit of strength, so it can synergize with Raggadragga, buffing it. If you have, if it had 3 or more oil counters and you had Raggadragga out, it's a 5/5, so that's pretty cool. And then, when it becomes tapped, it also has exiling effects, which can be nice. Devoted Druid, amazing. We don't really have anything that super combos here to make, Devoted Druid not a creature or anything, but has a lot of synergies with the buffs and things to just float a ton of mana. You could target Devoted Druid with the +7/+7 buff during combat, and if you were able to cast a big spell and then target it with the +7/+7, and then maybe float a ton of more mana and cast another spell. So a lot of interesting synergy there. Llanowar Loam Speaker, this one's in here just for its ability to I'm always looking at the flexible parts, being able to make lands, so land creatures, so it's still a land, but it's an elemental creature. So since it's a land, lands have mana abilities, you'll see later, we use some of our land creatures, which is very important. Ornithopter, just flying, we're in Gruul, so having some flying blockers is also really nice. This one, it can tap for 2 if we have our commander out. Radha, when it attacks, you just add 2 red, and then it'll untap, so you can add a green. So this is a 3 mana dork, pretty much, during combat. It's great. Kyrian Elves, you just choose red, right? And then it's just a 2-color dork for you. This is Reclusive Taxidermist. It gets +3/+2 as long as there are 4 more creature cards in your graveyard, so it can buff itself. It's kind of similar to the Werebear. Priest of Titania, excellent dork. Just being able to tap for a ton when we get our stuff going. One of the most needed includes for this deck for sure. Bramble Familiar, also great home for this card. It can tap, you can discard it, return Bramble Familiar, really excellent, but it has a sorcery that costs 7. So it synergizes great with Raggadragga. It's a dork and a 7 mana spell. Crazy. This is great. It's just a land with a flexible dork. That's cool. Zerta Druid. It's, whenever you tap it, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. So just some extra value while you're tapping and floating all this mana. Wandertail Mentor. I really like this guy. He's 2 mana. He has both the colors we need. And whenever you pay 4 mana, so whenever you expend 4, as you spend your 4th total mana to cast spells this turn, it gets +1/+1. So it gets casually bigger as you drop more and more things. Whisper of the Wilds, it's just a 2 mana dork, which is super nice. Tender Wild Guide has Offspring, so in the later game, this is one that is a dork early on, but can also be multiple when you draw it later, and then it can also put +1/+1 counters on things. Poison Dart Frog, it's a reach. You can give it Death Touch. That's pretty nice. Nightshade Dryad, it's a death touching guy. It can tap for colorless. It can tap for any color. We got Ruby Daring Tracker. It's got haste, so it can immediately come down tap. And then when it attacks, if you control a creature like Raggadragga, it gets +2/+2. So with Raggadragga out, it activates her buff, and then he buffs her. So she's getting +4/+4. So she's automatically a 5/6, which is nice. Super good. Super, super good. Incubation Druid. If he has a counter on him, you add 3 mana. So, whoa. 3-Tree Root Weaver, just a 2 mana tap for any color. Heron Blade Elite taps for its power, which is really good with us since we're going to be able to up it. We don't really have humans, that's not really what we're doing. But anything that taps for its power is very good. So another thing that taps for its power. Circle of Dream Druid, add a green for each creature you control. That is going to be a lot of what our 3 mana dorks are doing, is they just have so much strength to them, and that's why we're willing to pay these 3 mana costs. Like Marwyn, right? Just tap, add equal to her power, and then whenever another elf enters, gets a counter, This one synergizes a lot more than the other one with humans, because we do just have a lot of elves naturally. See, I mean, they're just everywhere. This one, probably a very flexible one. You know, this one I just like. You know, draw a card is nice, 3 mana, but it is just a 1 dork, so I don't know. Cradle Clear Cutter, really nice in the way that when you drop it down for the prototype cost, it's just a dork, but it has potential to tap for its power. So if you have Ragga out, even when you just pay the 3 mana to get him out, it's 3 mana that it taps for, but it has potential to be way more. Galandra, Color of the Wirewood. This one allows you to, whenever you spend mana to cast a spell with converted mana cost 6 or greater, draw a card. So it has a lot of synergy with what we want to be doing, because we want to cast 7 or greater. Elvish Archdruid, green for every elf you control, and it buffs our elves. Elemental Druid, you know, it adds green for each creature with power 4 or greater, but it has a sink here for all that mana where you can deal damage equal to its power to any target player or planeswalker. That's good. And then we're going to get into our land situation. So we are running Disciple of Freyalise. I just like this. It's an elf. It synergizes greatly with our elves, but also it's one of just the newer Modern Horizons 3 shock lands, or bolt lands, really. And just gain some life, draw some cards, or access the creature's power, so you really have some awesome opportunity to just buff the crap out of one of your creatures and just draw and gain a ton of life. We are running, like I mentioned previously, we are running land creatures, right? So when you animate this, it will still have a mana ability, so it'll buff itself. So Raging Ravine is really, really nice for this. We're running Restless Ridgeline, Lair of the Hydra. These are the 3 colored ones, and then probably our most powerful man land is definitely Inkmoth Nexus, right? I mean, it's with Raggadragga out, you could kill someone, right? You animate Inkmoth, it becomes a 3/3, and then if you cast a spell of 7 or greater, it gets +7/+7, so it becomes an instant flying 10/10 with Infect. So, yeah, very deadly, very, very deadly card in this deck. I'm even thinking about running like a land tutor, like, I don't know, something like Sylvan Scrying or something, just to get that card. But either way, we're also running Kessig Wolfrun. This is an amazing card in this deck. We have so much mana, and being able to just at instant speed decide that one creature is going to be way bigger with Trample is just super good. We're running Wooded Foothills, Cinderglade, Wooded Ridgeline, and Stomping Ground. These are just our fetchable lands, so we can fetch these. We are running some more of these are our other green-red lands. We are running a lot, because we are predominantly green, but when we have those red pips, we don't want to miss them. So, plus this one has added benefit of being a spell. You know, I love the Modern Horizons 3 cards. It just allows me to have more spells. And then we're just running basics, man. I don't have matching forests for this deck yet. Yeah, see, we are definitely predominantly in the green area. That's really where we shine, because our mountains are not even close. But they match. And I love this art. I love this art. I had it for one of my standard decks a long time ago when these came out, and I just loved it. So I've kept a pretty well-stocked pile of like 20 or 30 of this art. So whenever I have some mountains, I like to throw those in. So anyway, that, boom, is my Raggadragga list for right now. I think it's super fun. It comes out the gate swinging. You become a threat pretty much immediately just because you are so crazy aggressive. I mean, this deck can really easily just run like any other aggro deck where you just, who you think's the biggest problem, you could probably kill them before they're a problem to you. And then it's just a 1v2 at that point. But even as I've been playing the deck, I've been even spreading the love during combat, you know, spreading out that damage, and I've become the threat. But if they don't draw a board wipe, then, I mean, it doesn't really matter. You're dropping way too many dorks, drawing too many cards, hitting for so much damage that not a lot of other decks are keeping up with you. And I was very surprised with its performance. You know, I thought it would be more of like a fun deck just to bust out because it didn't cost very much to throw it together. But turned out to be pretty fun. So I'm going to keep it together for a while. The only upgrade I made to it recently was the Inkmoth Nexus because I actually enjoyed playing the deck so much. I was like, yeah, you know what? We're going to pick up Inkmoth. I've been meaning to for a while, so it would just fit so funny in this deck, and I think it'd be a good time. So if you enjoyed this, and you enjoy these deck techs, you know, always leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe if you enjoyed it that much. Outside of that, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!